Truck Talk, brought to you by eTruckBiz.
Hi everyone, Ben Wheel reminding you that this episode is not endorsed, sponsored, approved, or otherwise affiliated with FedEx Ground or any other company other than eTruckBiz. Today's episode features a conversation about recruiting, and our guest is Dan Neve with RM Deliveries in Michigan. Welcome, Dan. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, to cover the last 15 years, Ben, I've worked in a few different fields ranging from industrial HVAC to medical equipment supply and delivery, where I was a route supervisor and a store manager. And I've been employed at RM Deliveries with FedEx for the last 2.5 years.
So you've been doing this for a few years. Tell me a little bit about the drivers that you currently employ, how long they've been with you, what kind of equipment they're driving, miles they're putting on them.
Yeah, sure. We have a total of 24 drivers right now, actually, and we're looking to add another 8 to 10. We have an employee as far as longevity with the company that's been with us for 12 years, and then the most recent employee that we have was probably hired yesterday. So
all right.
Quite the big range.
Yes, it is. It runs the gamut. Let's talk a little bit about what your current retention is like. You said you've got a couple that have been with you for a long time. The ones who've left, what kind of reasons do they give you for leaving? I imagine you've had some who've left during your tenure there.
Yeah, of course. Right now we're at about a 75% retention rate, and usually when people leave us, the most common reason they give me is just to better themselves. You know, they found a better job, maybe with more benefits or maybe even better pay. But I always think that in this field, you know, we have to plan that not everybody that we employ is going to retire from us. You just have to plan accordingly for that.
Right. So you mentioned benefits. Does RM Deliveries offer any kind of benefits or incentives for retaining drivers?
Yes, we do. We are the only contractor in our station that actually pays by the hour. Everyone else in our station still pays daily. We offer our drivers what we call an excellence in service bonus that a driver receives at the first of every month, as long as he doesn't have any missed deliveries or complaints or no accidents with their vehicles. We give them a simple IRA plan that our company actually matches a certain percentage of. We give our drivers a $50 referral bonus if they refer somebody to us and that driver stays with us at least 90 days. And then we also try to do as much as possible, run our guys on a 4-day-a-week schedule rather than 5 to 6 days a week schedule.
Wow. Well, I was going to ask you what differentiates you from the other contractors, but I think I've already gotten the answer. You offer retirement benefits and you also have a 4-day work week. Those are pretty big incentives to me. How many other contractors are in the terminals where you guys run?
We have 12 currently right now.
Wow. Well, that is pretty different. And the others are all paying by the day. And you guys, what caused you guys to decide to start paying by the hour?
We're just trying to stay ahead of the curve as far as what FedEx expects from the contractors, what is best for us as contractors. And we just had seen that in the past, it seems like everybody is stuck in the rut of just paying by the day, and they pay by the day no matter what the volume is or how many guys they have or anything. So after crunching the numbers with some of your staff, actually, your pro coach, we decided that we were going to pull the trigger and start going hourly. And it was a little bit rough at first. I mean, we did lose some people because they thought that they weren't going to make as much money. But I think in the end, we actually have gained a better quality of driver because the driver knows he's going to get paid for the hours that he works, not just paid by the day. When the volume increases and we have to put more workload on our guys, they get paid more, especially around this time of year for peak. And then in the summertime, it actually helps the company because as we slow down, we're not paying the same amount every day no matter what, because we can't keep a static payroll when the volume that we're seeing throughout the year is on a dynamic schedule.
Exactly. That makes a lot of sense. Sure does. So you mentioned that some of them quit and you obviously had to hire some more. So when you're hiring, we'll start getting into the recruiting. When you are recruiting, what are the attributes, maybe the top 2 or 3 attributes that you look for in your driver candidates?
Probably number 1 is going to be experience. We definitely want to make sure that we're putting somebody who is qualified to drive our vehicles behind the wheel. Number 2, I would say, is dependability. Probably every contractor out there will echo this, that when you schedule somebody, you want to make sure they're actually going to be there to fill that slot for the day. And then number 3, I would say professionalism, because at RM Deliveries, at least, I know that we really pride ourselves on the fact that every one of our guys are trained to always be professional, courteous, and polite with the customers, with station staff, no matter what.
Well, those are 3 good ones. So my understanding is that you mentioned working with our pro coaches, and you also use eTrucks recruiting services, right?
Correct. Yep.
And what prompted RM Deliveries to start using our recruiting services?
We've been with you guys now, I think, for a little bit over 2.5 years. And when I was speaking to the owner about this, he actually told me that the reason that they decided to go with eTruck is because as a company, they wanted to broaden their base and that they needed another resource to help them grow, because what they were doing on their own just on the internet wasn't working. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. If you can have somebody spending more time with it, because as we talk about all the time, preach to our customers, recruiting it can solve most all your problems by having enough recruits. So tell me, Dan, what's your involvement in the recruiting process? Well, in the beginning, I was heavily involved. My position in the company as manager has evolved to kind of a manager/AO position. I was working with our recruiter, John Nowacki from eTruck, almost every other day. And him and I put our heads together and we were trying to figure out ways to streamline the process even when we needed applicants immediately. And we came up with something that we actually called fast tracking, where instead of there being such an in-depth questionnaire being done on a specific applicant, we just asked, the highlight questions to see if they're qualified, and then John would ship them to me.
Excellent. So what's that interaction like? Do y'all talk on the phone? You send emails, text, all the above?
Yeah, we did all the above. I mean, we're constantly in communication back and forth, like you said, with text, with email, with phone calls. And then as our needs changed, we were actually able to tailor how John was doing our recruiting to meet our needs. But now we have gotten so big that we actually have an HR department who does nothing but process all of our new recruits.
Wow, that's super. That is good to hear. So I actually did a little bit of research before our conversation, and it looks like to me that in one point in August of this year, last month, y'all had as many as 29 driver candidates. Have any of those worked out for you guys yet? Are they still in process? How does that work?
Yeah, actually, we've had multiple people that we've hired of those 29, and they are still employed with us. And again, we just appreciate the fact that through eTruck's recruitment program that we have so many applicants to choose from. It's made us really, I think it gives us a benefit of being able to pick and choose which drivers we want based on their experience and their qualifications, rather than just having to take somebody because we need a warm body to fill the seat for the day.
Right. Makes sense. Well, I appreciate the comments there that our recruiters are doing good work for you. But this isn't designed to be a total sales pitch, but I appreciate the kind words. So tell me a little bit, Dan, about recruiting. You've been doing this for a few years now. Now that peak is coming up, you mentioned peak earlier. What's recruiting starting to look like as opposed to pre-peak in the past years?
In the past years, I think people, I would say, probably took not so much during pre-peak, but throughout the year, they were really lax in how they approach recruiting. They thought, hey, when I need somebody, I'll start looking for somebody and hopefully I find them. Where now, what I have learned and what I have initiated is that we just perpetually recruit. We never stop, because you really can't afford to take your foot off the gas. And right now, recruiting is one of the most important things a company can do if they want to stay on top. And we can never predict another COVID Christmas or a contractor, losing his business due to mismanagement. And you just have to be ready with resources if you want to grow in this company and stay profitable.
That makes a lot of sense. So you're recruiting year round. What do you do when you find qualified people that you'd like to be on the team? Maybe you don't have an open position. Do you have any situations like that?
We have. So what we do is our HR department pre-screens the driver. We put them through the entire system, get them badged, and then we just tell the applicant, hey, we may not have an immediate opening for you right now, but that could change tomorrow. And if we don't have the immediate opening, what I start to do is I start to look within our building to see if there's any contingency work that maybe we can do with that new applicant, so we can start making some money as a business, and then also we can put that guy to work or woman to work immediately.
Wow, that's great. So have you been able to do contingency work in the past, or with this, or actually with this year, with all the volume that's gone on, or at other terminals? Are y'all doing contingency work?
We have, and actually, we have not been able to do any in other terminals, but within our own terminal, we've been able to do contingency work, and there's still some available today. So it makes it nice. It gives you really another out as a contractor to be able to utilize your resources, and then when you don't need to run that person on contingency work, you can pull them back into the fold and have them working in your original CSA, helping the company stay profitable.
Do you guys ever use jumpers with your drivers?
We used to. I know a lot of people will say, you can get more productivity out of a certain route if you have jumpers, but to be honest, most of my guys tell me a jumper just slows them down.
Okay.
They've all, I won't say perfected the system, but they all have a routine that they follow, at each and every stop, and they tell me that they could actually be more efficient without a jumper in the seat with them.
Okay. Well, that, if they're professionals and doing their jobs, yeah, it probably is easier just to get it done themselves rather than trying to train somebody else. So that does make sense. So you've been using Etrucks recruiting services, and you did promote it a little bit, but tell me a little bit more about what you have found to be the biggest benefits. Is it, you mentioned a little bit about the quality of applicants. Is it how much time do you save, or the attention you receive? Are there some other kind of benefits? Does it allow you to do other things?
I would say number one, Ben, is time saved. By us knowing that when an applicant's name comes across our desk, that person has already been pre-screened, and they are almost, I won't say tailored fit, but they are exactly what we're looking for. And also your guys' team has worked hand in hand with us to speed up this process. That to me is invaluable, because that tells me that you guys are not stuck in a way where you say, this is the way we're going to do it, and we can't vary from that just because that's the way we've done business since the beginning. And for you guys to be flexible with us when we need to be flexible, that to me is invaluable, because again, this business does not stay static from January to December. To be able to roll with the punches, per se.
So you mentioned saving time. What is the typical span of time in days or weeks when you find out about a candidate, when John passes them along to you before they can get hired? How long does that take typically?
It depends on the applicant. If they are a CDL driver, that driver now, through First Advantage, I can get them approved in 1 to 2 days. The time that usually takes the most with a new applicant is when you're actually trying to process them at our station. To get them through First Advantage, approved as a driver, set up their road tests, bring them in, do the road test. And now FedEx has actually changed the way that we pre-screen for drug and DOT physicals, at least in our area, which I'm sure is probably the same across the board. So now we actually have to send a driver to a local Walmart, is where they actually go to do their pre-employment drug screen. And if they need a DOT physical, then they have to make an appointment with the local hospital to have the physical. Where in the past, everything was done at the local hospital, and then they could do it usually within like 45 minutes to maybe an hour and a half. But now the process has kind of been drug out, because you have to send them to get their pre-screen or their drug pre-screening, make an appointment, go get their DOT physical if they don't have their medical examiner's card. So that usually adds about 3 days to the whole process. So I would say it takes about a week from the time that we get an applicant from John to the time we can actually get them started their first day with RM deliveries.
I guess that's pretty typical what a lot of people see. How many of your drivers, you mentioned some have CDLs, percentage-wise, do you see many come through that do have their CDL? Is that a big deal? Is that valuable? I understand they're harder to find, I believe. Do you find that to be true?
Not really harder to find. What I see a lot, it's probably about 15% of our guys are CDL holders. Typically, when you find a CDL driver, they just want to get off the road. They're sick of driving either cross country and never being home to see their families, or they're sick of just the hours they have to be on the road every single day without a break. Like I said earlier, when I can offer a 4-day-a-week work schedule and guarantee these guys that they're going to get 40 hours plus, that's usually really appealing to a CDL driver, because that equals, I'm home every night. I may not be home by dinner every night, but at least I'm home every night. I'm tucking my kids in. I'm seeing my wife daily rather than 1 or 2 days, and then I'm back on the road for a week, come home 1 or 2 days. So they really seem to like it, CDL drivers.
With everything that the country's been experiencing in 2020, you see what's important in your life, and you're absolutely right. Being able to see your kids and watch them grow up is a big advantage to a lot of folks. So, Dan, if one of the listeners out there is considering using an outside source to help them with recruiting, what would you tell them before they get started?
I would tell them that they need to use the recruiter at eTruck and be in constant communication with that person, because the recruiter doesn't know your needs. They can't help you meet them. For us, we have our drivers driving anything from a P1200 down to a pickup truck. If I go to John Nowacki, our recruiter, and I tell him, say, hey, I need like 4 people to fill a position to drive our big trucks, he can then start to streamline the process, so I only see people that are qualified for those trucks. For our company, we just purchased 5 transit vehicles and 3 pickups. So now I can actually take advantage of the FedEx's, what they call the L10 and the L20 program, where I can bring a guy in who may not have all the driving experience he needs to drive a P1000, but he can start off in the trainee program and start driving our smaller transits, and then in time work his way up with experience driving our vehicles to qualify to drive a P1000, which will be under the L20 program.
You mentioned pickup trucks. Are those considered alternative vehicles?
No, actually, we have gotten those approved as, we call them, our inclement weather vehicles. Our CSA is a lot of rural area, and it's a lot of unpaved back roads, a lot of woods driving. So we actually utilize our pickup trucks, especially in the wintertime, to go out and do like the worst of the worst areas that we have to go into to deliver, to help save time and make it more efficient for us.
So tell me a little bit of your plans for the future with RM deliveries. Can you talk about what you expect to see going forward?
Definitely. So right now, we are trying to ramp up for peak, like everybody across the country is, I'm sure, but we kind of have a unique situation where we have just been approached with the possibility of us picking up 3 more zip codes within our station's service area. As far as future plans, we're going to have an immediate growth, I hope, if the deal goes through, of almost a 80% increase for us. So we are trying to work on that right now. And after that is solidified, hopefully, in the books, my future plans are just to continue to grow. I want to begin to structure RM deliveries so that it's no longer just a delivery company, but rather a trucking company. Because I see myself in 3 to 5 years, not as a manager just over the trucking company that we're going to have in Saginaw, Michigan, but maybe a regional manager over multiple RM deliveries all over our state and possibly outside the state. With the help of you guys at eTruck and the right people on our team, I'm very confident that those plans are attainable.
Wow, that's exciting stuff. So 80% growth, did I hear you correctly? Is that what you said, potentially?
Roughly, yeah. I mean, right now we're doing about 1,200 stops a day. If that deal were to go through, we should be gaining about an average of 600 to 800 stops. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, that does sound awesome. And how is that affecting your recruiting, since we're talking about recruiting?
Our foot's on the gas even more now. Today, I've got 3 driver's tests I have to do. We've had 3 people start last week. Like I said earlier, I'm looking to add 8 to 10 more people to RM deliveries just to cover what we're going to need for peak. And then I'm also having to find 6 to 8 more people just to cover the routes of the additional work areas that we're going to be absorbing.
As you're saying, all right, well, we'll wrap it up. But before we do, tell me, you've talked about it a little bit. Do you have some advice for other AOs or BCs that might be listening to this podcast who want to learn more about recruiting?
Yeah, I would say you have to perpetually recruit. You can't afford not to be recruiting all the time. It's just something that I would say the best advice I could give is don't think that you can do it by yourself or that you ever have enough people, because you don't. I would strongly encourage anybody to give eTruck a try, even if they want to do just the base model. And I know I sound like a cheerleader for eTruck, but you guys have changed the way we do business for the good. But if you really want to know how to excel in FedEx because of the insurmountable amount of data that you guys collect for us, And I know you don't want it to sound like a sales pitch, but it's the truth. There's so much that's happening in this business that changes daily. To be able to stay on top of it and even try to get ahead of it, you need somebody like eTruck in your back pocket. Because we use eTruck, we use Craigslist, we use Facebook, we even do just good old face-to-face recruiting where we have business cards made up that all of our drivers carry. And if they see somebody out in the field and that person says, hey, how do I get a job at FedEx? Call this person. Give them the card, walk away. You can never have enough resources.
Well, that certainly is good advice, and we appreciate customers like you. We appreciate your business from RM Deliveries. We appreciate all our customers, and it's nice to hear that it's working, because that's the reason we do it. So thank you very much for the kind words. We appreciate that. And we thank you, our listener. Please join us again for our next edition of Truck Talks by eTruckBiz.